If you really want to understand modern China, what it wants, what it fears, what it's doing on the world stage, you've got to start with its geography. Because for China, maybe more than any other country on Earth, the land itself has always shaped the destiny of its people. And, to understand where it's going, we have to look at where it came from.
This quote from political scientist Lucian Pai just hits the nail on the head. You have to remember, we're not talking about a country with a few hundred years of history. We are talking about a continuous civilization that goes back thousands of years. And that deep, deep past, it's very much alive, and it shapes almost every single decision Beijing makes today.
And if you want to see that ancient ambition smash right into the modern world, we need to go to a very specific moment in 2006, out on the open ocean. So, picture this. You've got the USS Kitty Hawk, a 1,000-foot American supercarrier. I mean, this thing is the very symbol of U.S. power on the seas. It's cruising through international waters, totally confident, surrounded by its whole protective fleet. Warships, aircraft, submarines. It is supposed to be untouchable. Or so everyone thought. And then, just out of nowhere, a Chinese submarine pops up to the surface, not way off on the horizon, but right in the dead center of the American battle group. It had stalked them, completely undetected, and was now easily within torpedo range of the Kitty Hawk. Can you imagine? The Americans were absolutely stunned and furious.
Now, officially, Beijing was pretty quiet about the whole thing, but the message was loud and clear, and they didn't have to fire a single shot. It was like a 21st century version of reverse gunboat diplomacy. It was China announcing a new reality. After 4,000 years, they were coming to sea.
But to understand why that submarine surfaced in the East China Sea in 2006, we have to rewind, way back, like 4,000 years back. We have to go to the very source of China's greatest strength and also its deepest, most constant fear.
This right here is the North China Plan. This is the heartland. It's the birthplace of the Han Chinese civilization, and it's still the demographic, cultural, and political center of the entire country. Think about this. 1 billion people live here, in a space that's only about half the size of the United States.
And here's the fundamental problem at this place. Its geography is a total double-edged sword. On one hand, it's an incredible blessing. The soil is fertile, you've got 2 huge rivers, you can grow a ton of food and support this enormous population. But it's also a curse, because it's almost completely flat. There are no mountains, no real natural barriers to protect it. So the very same land that let the Han civilization boom also left it wide open to invasion. So if you're a Chinese dynasty and you're constantly facing this threat, what do? Well, for thousands of years, the answer was always the same. If nature doesn't give you walls, you've got to go out and build them yourself. You secure the heartland by controlling everything around it.
And this lays out the simple and kind of brutal logic that has driven China's strategy for millennia. Step 1, your heartland is everything, but it's totally vulnerable. Step 2, all those surrounding areas filled with people who aren't Han Chinese are seen as potential threats. So step 3, the solution? You have to expand. You have to conquer those regions and turn them into giant buffer zones.
Okay, let's start with our first massive buffer zone, Tibet. For Beijing, Tibet isn't just some region. It is, quite literally, nature's version of the Great Wall of China. It's this enormous, high-altitude fortress that creates a massive barrier between China's vulnerable western side and its biggest geopolitical rival, India. But wait, it gets even more critical than that. The Tibetan Plateau is the starting point for Asia's most important rivers. It's literally known as China's water tower. Now imagine if a rival power, say India, controlled Tibet. They could potentially control the water flowing into China. So for Beijing, you have to understand, controlling Tibet, it's a matter of national survival. It is absolutely non-negotiable. All right, let's head northwest now to Xinjiang. And to really get why this place is so important, you just have to look at the scale. It is huge. I mean, you could cram the UK, France, Germany, and Spain inside of it and still have room left over. We're talking about a buffer zone on an epic scale. And just like Tibet, there are so many layers to why this place matters to Beijing. It borders 8 different countries, so it acts as a buffer against instability. Militarily, it's so remote they use it for nuclear testing. Economically, it's got oil, and it's a critical piece of their massive One Belt, One Road project. And politically, for Beijing, having total control is crucial to stamp out any chance of an independence movement by the local Uyghur people. So, okay, for centuries, it's all been about locking down these land borders, building these buffers. But now China's focus is shifting. It's turning its eyes outward, toward the sea.
And this is the next massive chapter in its geographic story. And this brings up a really fascinating question, right? How does a civilization that has spent 4,000 years worrying about threats from the land, about nomadic horsemen riding in from the steppes, how does it suddenly pivot and try to become a global sea power? The problem, for China, starts right off its own coastline. To the east and south, you've got its front door to the entire world, all the shipping lanes that its economy depends on. But it's a door that can be very, very easily slammed shut.
Okay, so if you're a Chinese naval planner, there is one thing you are absolutely obsessed with: the first island chain. It's this string of islands, Japan, Taiwan, the Philippines, that basically acts like a giant fence, hemming in the Chinese Navy. And what's the most important piece of that fence? The gate that could lock them in? It's Taiwan.
And this is where things get really complicated. This isn't just a China vs. the US thing. Look at this. China's claimed pretty much the entire South China Sea, puts it at odds with almost all of its neighbors. It's this tangled mess of overlapping claims on tiny islands, reefs, and resources. So here's the bottom line. China's goal is to build a blue water navy. What does that mean? It means going from a green water navy, one that can basically just defend its own coastline, to a true global force that can sail anywhere in the world, project its power, and challenge America's long, long reign as king of the seas.
All right, so let's tie all of this together. Think about it. Securing that massive heartland, controlling all those buffer zones, breaking out into the open ocean, all of it requires one thing above all else: complete unity and stability at home. And that, well, that all hinges on a very specific deal.
You see, for decades now, there's been this kind of unspoken deal, a social contract between the Communist Party and 1.4 billion people. And it's pretty simple. The party delivers amazing economic growth, makes people more prosperous, and in return, the people accept the party's total control.
The thing is, though, that bargain is starting to show some serious cracks. People are getting angrier about things like massive corruption or catastrophic pollution that's actually threatening their food supply. And all the while, the economy, the engine that makes this whole deal work, is starting to slow down.
And that leaves us with the ultimate question, doesn't it? For 4,000 years, China's geography has demanded a strong, unified state just to hold itself together. For the last few decades, the Communist Party has paid for that unity with prosperity. But what happens if that economic promise starts to break? Then the future of China, and really the entire world, could once again be decided by the land itself.